There are moments in life that split time into before and after, moments you can never undo. For me, that moment came with a message on Emily's phone. It was one of those ordinary nights, the kind that hums with the routine comfort of a life built together. The kids were finally asleep, the dishwasher was humming in the background, and Emily was curled up on the couch, laughing at something on her phone. She looked so at ease, so beautiful in the warm glow of the living room lamp. I remember thinking, how lucky am I? But then she got up, mumbled something about needing a glass of water, and left her phone on the coffee table. It buzzed once, then again. I glanced over, and that's when I saw it, just a name, Matt, and a preview that made my heart stop. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. For a second, the world tilted. I blinked, hoping I'd misread it, but the words stayed. That short message, so casual, so intimate, was a key turning in a lock I didn't even know existed. Emily came back into the room, her smile as radiant as ever. She picked up her phone, glanced at the screen, and froze. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice steady. She quickly tapped the screen, and the message disappeared. "Yeah," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Just a spam text." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But something in her voice, something in the way she avoided my eyes, planted the first seed of doubt. That doubt didn't fade. It grew, spreading roots through my mind until I couldn't ignore it. I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. Emily had always been a bit secretive with her phone, nothing unusual in today's world, but now it felt deliberate. She'd keep it face down on the counter, take it with her into the bathroom, laugh at messages she never shared. She began staying late at work more often, talking about new projects and after-hours meetings. I didn't think much of it at first. Emily had always been dedicated to her job, and I admired that about her. But then came the sudden nights out with friends I'd never heard of, the vague explanations that didn't quite add up. "Just a girls' night," she'd say, waving off my questions. "You don't know them. They're new friends from the yoga class I started." I nodded, forcing a smile. It wasn't like I could argue with that. She deserved a social life, a chance to unwind. But then why did I feel so uneasy? Why did I start catching myself glancing at her phone, hoping to see something that would make it all make sense? The truth came in fragments, like pieces of a puzzle scattered in front of me. A dinner receipt from a restaurant I'd never been to. The faint smell of a cologne that wasn't mine. A lingering smile when she thought I wasn't looking. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself that every marriage goes through phases, that trust is about believing in your partner even when things don't add up perfectly. But late at night, when Emily was fast asleep beside me, I couldn't stop replaying those little moments, those tiny cracks that seemed to be growing wider. One evening, she came home later than usual. Her hair was freshly styled, her makeup perfect. "Sorry I'm late," she said, setting down her bag. "Traffic was terrible." I nodded, trying to ignore the tightness in my chest. "What was the meeting about?" I asked. She hesitated, just for a second. "Just some budget stuff. Nothing exciting." I wanted to believe her, but her words felt too practiced, too rehearsed. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday night. Emily was in the shower, and her phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was face down as always, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up, my heart pounding. Her messages were open, and the latest one was from Matt. I read it before I could stop myself. "Miss you already. Let's sneak away again soon." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. This wasn't innocent. This wasn't my imagination. This was proof that Emily had been lying to me, that she'd been seeing someone else behind my back. When she came out of the bathroom, I confronted her. "Who's Matt?" I asked, holding up the phone. Her face went pale. "What are you doing with my phone?" "Who is he?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "And don't tell me he's just a friend." I read the messages. "Emily, I know you've been sneaking around with him." She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her silence said more than anything else. "I trusted you," I said, my voice breaking. "I trusted you, and you've been lying to me. Why? Why would you do this to us?" She finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant to hurt you. It wasn't supposed to happen. I just..." "Just what?" I interrupted. Just wanted to see if you could get away with it? Just wanted to throw everything we built together away. She shook her head. No, it's not like that. I was feeling lost, disconnected. I know it doesn't excuse what I did, but I didn't know how to fix things between us. Her words stung, but they didn't make me any less angry. You didn't even try, I said. You didn't talk to me, didn't give me a chance. You just went behind my back and threw away everything we had. That night, I packed a bag and left. I didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I would do. All I knew was that the life I thought I had, the marriage I thought was unshakable, was gone. The drive to my friend Dave's house was a blur. Rain spattered against the windshield, but I barely noticed. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Every mile away from Emily felt like breathing through shattered glass, necessary but agonizing. I arrived at Dave's doorstep, soaked and exhausted, but grateful for a place to escape. Dave didn't ask questions that night. He simply handed me a dry towel, poured me a drink, and said, "Stay as long as you need." The kindness brought a lump to my throat. I nodded, managing a weak thanks, before retreating to the spare bedroom. For weeks, I stayed there, trying to piece together what had happened. I replayed every moment, every late-night meeting, every text she quickly swiped away, every excuse that never quite sat right. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the realization that the woman I loved, the woman I'd built a life with, had made me a stranger in my own marriage. Emily's calls and messages came steadily at first. She pleaded, apologized, swore that she'd end things with Matt, that she would do whatever it took to fix our marriage. Each message tugged at the part of me that still loved her, still wanted to believe in the life we'd built. But every time I thought about going back, I remembered the messages, the lies, the way she'd chosen someone else over me. One evening, as I sat in Dave's kitchen nursing a cup of coffee, I finally made up my mind. I couldn't go back. Not yet, maybe not ever. I needed space, clarity, a chance to rebuild myself. I called Emily that night. She answered on the first ring. "John," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. I can't come back," I interrupted, my voice firm. "I need time. I need to figure out what I want, and I can't do that with you." There was a long pause, and I could hear her stifling a sob. "I understand," she said quietly. "But please know that I'll be here, waiting. I'll do whatever you need me to do." I ended the call, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. The love I'd once felt for her hadn't disappeared, but it had changed. It wasn't enough to keep me tethered to someone who had broken my trust so completely. Over the next few months, I worked on myself. I started therapy, something I'd always considered but never pursued. It was painful at first, digging into the wounds, facing the doubts and fears I'd pushed aside. But slowly, it began to help. I realized that Emily's betrayal, as devastating as it was, wasn't about me. It wasn't a reflection of my worth or my love. It was a choice she made, one that she would have to live with. I moved into a small apartment, a place I could call my own. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I decorated it with pieces that made me happy, photos of the kids, mementos from trips we'd taken as a family. Not all the memories were tainted. Some still brought a smile, even if they felt bittersweet. Emily and I kept things civil for the kids' sake. We worked out a co-parenting arrangement, splitting time as evenly as possible. The conversations were polite but distant. We talked about school schedules, doctor's appointments, and weekend plans. She stopped trying to win me back, and I stopped looking for signs of the woman I used to know. Eventually, the pain began to fade. I started going out more, reconnecting with old friends, finding hobbies that brought me joy. I took up running, finding solace in the steady rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement. With each mile, I felt a little more like myself, a little more grounded. One day, I met someone new. Her name was Claire, and she was nothing like Emily. She was open, honest, and kind. We started as friends, grabbing coffee after running into each other at the park. Slowly, our friendship grew into something more. I took it slow, hesitant to trust again, but Claire never pressured me. She understood my hesitations, my need to move at my own pace. When I finally told her about Emily and everything that had happened, she listened without judgment. "I'm sorry you went through that," she said, her eyes full of compassion. "But I'm glad you're here now." Those words stuck with me. I realized that while Emily's betrayal had marked a painful chapter in my life, it wasn't the whole story. It was just one part of a much larger journey. Looking back now, I can see how far I've come. The heartbreak, the silence, the shattered trust, they're still there, but they no longer define me. They've become scars, reminders of what I've endured and how I've grown. Emily and I will never be what we once were. But I found peace in knowing that I did everything I could, that I tried until there was nothing left to try. I've learned to let go, to forgive, not to forget, but to free myself from the weight of what she did. Now, as I sit on the porch of my small but cozy home, watching the sun set over the trees, I feel a sense of calm I never thought I'd have again. I'm not just surviving. I'm living. And that, I've come to realize, is the best revenge I could ever have.